Hello and welcome to the Leshak Report. This edition on March 3rd, 2013. This is the third broadcast, excuse me, of the Leshak Report um, on LibertyMovementRadio.com. Currently, we're bringing broadcast Sundays. It's not a live show, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to transition to a live format, and that format will be taking place on Fridays. The show will be moved to Fridays. I'm thinking at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, CST. All right, so excuse me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leshak Report on this Sunday edition, and so there's some things I'd like to get in today. The main topic for today will be third parties, specifically the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party. Why is that the topic that I want to talk about? Well, basically, essentially, I've just been kind of collaborating with third parties for a long time now as a contributor to the Independent Political Report, independentpoliticalreport.com. What that website is, it's the leading website covering third parties and independents in the United States. And I've been like one of the big time contributors to that website. It has about 6 million total views, 2.1 million unique visitors. Great website, check it out. independentpoliticalreport.com. And basically, I've been kind of, getting more involved with third parties, and especially the Constitution Party. I created a Constitution Party of Cook County Facebook page and a website, and that Cook County is the county in Illinois in which I live in, is the county that encompasses Chicago and many of the Chicago suburbs. And I created this website and Facebook page for the Cook County Constitution Party, and I've been kind of getting involved. So that's why I'd like to talk about third parties, and I'll make it as interesting as possible for my audience. And however, before I get into that, some things I want to cover, some news items, what's been happening, and from this I'll reference two of my. There's many news websites I enjoy. I'll reference two news sites, and they are Infowars.com with Alex Jones and LouRockwell.com. And even before I get to that, two U.S. Senate votes I'd like to talk about. First one is the confirmation of Chuck Hagel of Nebraska to be Secretary of State. As you know, Chuck Hagel was having quite a fight on his hand, he was being opposed pretty stringently by the Republican Party, the neocons in the Republican Party. Why didn't they like Hagel? Well, I think all of us know why. Mainly because he did not want to bomb the sovereign state of Iran. He didn't want to see innocent men, women, children get killed in a war for no reason whatsoever, except perhaps on the behest of Israel and the military-industrial complex. Iran posed no threat to anyone. They're light years away from even developing nuclear energy, much less nuclear weapon. And they know this, but nonetheless, the fear-mongering continues. And also, Hagel made some comments about Israel. He essentially didn't want to suck up to Israel, and pardon my French, but didn't want the U.S. to be Israel's bitch. And well, I completely concur with that. Israel is a sovereign state. They're not the 51st state of the Union. They can defend themselves. I believe they have like the fifth largest or fifth best military on the planet. They have over 400 nuclear weapons. They have a lot of capabilities. Should something happen, should Iran launch an attack, which it hasn't and it will never do so, Israel could literally wipe that country off the face of the map. And a little reference to what Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said, I believe it was 2005, don't quote me on that. he never said that he wants to wipe Israel off the map. What he said, he believes the Zionist regime will eventually fade away, will eventually cease to exist, will eventually not be a part of the map, the current Middle Eastern configuration and structure. So that's a quote that the fearmongers, the neocons, like to always misinterpret, always misquote him on that. I'm not a fan of Ahmadinejad. He associates himself with Holocaust deniers, white supremacists, like David Duke. He he hosted the 2006 Tehran conference on Holocaust denial and whatnot. He very poor leadership on the economy. The economy in Iran is very weak, not growing at all. GDP is low. People living in dire poverty. There's not much good to be said about Ahmadinejad. However, he is a nationalist. To a certain extent, he does care about his country, and he does not want to see that country face what would be a David versus Goliath matchup between Iran and Israel. He does not want to see that. Neither does pretty much any sane person in Iran. And even top Israeli generals, I can't think of any names off the top of my head, have admitted that Iran does not pose a threat to Israel. It definitely doesn't pose a threat to the United States in the slightest. So this is all fear-mongering. Anyway, Chuck Hagel was confirmed 58 votes, 41 votes. 4 Republicans voted for Hagel. One Republican who voted yay was Tad Cochran of Missouri. The other one was Mike Johannes of Mississippi. Other one, Richard Shelby of Alabama. And last but not least, Rand Paul of Kentucky. What I have to say is thank you, Rand Paul. Thank you, Senator Paul, for voting to confirm Chuck Hagel. I was actually afraid that he would side with the neocons on this one and vote not to confirm former Senator Hagel to be the defense secretary, because previously he voted to not end the cloture on the debate, and that kind of pissed off a lot of Ron Paul supporters, including myself. And I didn't know which way he was going to side on this. I'm glad he went with the right side. He didn't give in to the fear-mongering and didn't become a neocon apologist in this matter. Thank you, Rand Paul, for taking the right stand. So that passed 58 to 41. Rand Paul made the right call, and I thank him for that. That was on the February 26th. On the 27th of February, Jack Lew was confirmed to be the Secretary of the Treasury. 71 yay votes to 26 nay votes. Of course, all 26 nay votes were Republicans. And here, Rand Paul did something strange. He sided with the president's nominee, Jack Lew. I don't understand why he did it. He should have sided with the 26 Republicans. He didn't. It happened. It's over. Maybe he just believes that the president deserves to have his, nomination pick confirmed, because barring a felony or some kind of criminal charge or treasonous espionage style activity on the person being nominated for the position, is there really a reason for him not to be nominated? Well, maybe there isn't, but obviously Jack Lew is nothing close to being an Austrian school economist. He's a Keynesian all the way, and not going to be a good nominee. Not going to do any better than Timothy Geithner, in my opinion. But those were two Senate votes that were important. And then the sequestarian vote. Here's the vote. Senate Bill 388. Description: motion to invoke cloture on motion to proceed to Senate Bill 388. A bill to appropriately limit sequestarian, to eliminate tax loopholes, and for other purposes. What was the vote on this one? 51 yeas, and 49 nays. The yeas were all Democrats. The nays were all Republicans, coupled with a few Democrats who joined them. Essentially, this was rejected. The motion to revoke cloture on the sequestration bill. And I'm not really going to get into the whole sequester thing. I don't really think it's being blown up proportionally, blown way out of proportion. It's not a big deal at all. I'll just get to some other news. Alex Jones, Infowars.com. The new Infowars magazine is out. In case anyone's interested, here we got a video. Vaccine gives you shingles, and Alex Jones's dad speaks about he's a doctor, his patients' accounts of getting ill after receiving shingles vaccines. Monsanto and the FDA, two crime families working trillion-dollar hustle. Owning of food in the world is part of a strike force action plan, and Monsanto is the technocratic arm of that plan. All right. Okay, here's a pretty big, interesting, pretty big deal. From the New American, linked up to Infowars.com. A Maryland Senate passes Governor Martin O'Malley's gun control bill. 10 hours of intense debate. The Maryland Senate passed Governor Martin O'Malley's gun control measure handily Thursday afternoon, 28-19, with all 12 Republicans and a handful of Democrats voting against the bill. The measure will be debated in the House next week, with passage nearly certain. Once the governor signs the bill, it will make Maryland's gun laws among the most restrictive in the nation, putting the lie to the state's moniker, the Free State. Maryland is also, interestingly enough, it's the wealthiest state in our union. And there are more than 1.2 million firearms registered with the state. The new legislation will require gun owners as well as purchasers of firearms to get fingerprinted, take 8-hour-long classes of study, and pay for a much more extensive background check. Additionally, no one will be able to buy a quote-unquote assault weapon, purchase a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. Also tightens limits on gun ownership by residents committed against their will for mental health treatment. Governor announced the proposal in January, called it a common sense safety measure, give the right tools to combat violence, and he also said that it would protect Maryland's Second Amendment rights. No, it won't, Governor. You're so wrong on this. They were touted to rein in criminal ownership of guns, reducing firepower of those remaining in the hands of the public. They called for background checks, ban on semi-automatic assault weapons, ammunition limit, and the governor said we must do all we can to ensure that we keep guns out of the wrong hands and that we keep excessive firepower out of our communities. Oh my God. Alright, you have the typical mantra of these gun control freaks, that we have to have gun control in order to keep our cities safe. Alright, gun control. Ever heard of a city that uses gun control? I have. Happens to be Chicago, not far from where I live. Guess how many homicides the murder capital of America had last year? I believe it was 542 homicides. In January this year, there were 42 homicides in a single month. All right, kids getting shot after high school basketball games, like the Simeon Park high school basketball game. Kids getting shot going to parks after school. Kids getting shot for absolutely no reason. It's sickening. It's disgusting what's going on in Chicago. It's a travesty. And guess what? Chicago has one of the strictest gun control laws in the nation. Thanks, Richard Daley and Rahm Emanuel. You're going to try to infringe more on our gun rights as Americans? Well, look what's going on in your city. Mayor, look what's going on with Chicago and gun control. Not working at all. It is a complete and utter failure. Okay, so the Maryland Senate pro tempore, Nathan McFadden, was delighted with the bill's passage. Residents are sick and tired of gun violence. The Baltimore Sun, the liberal media, exalted the passage of the amendment of the bill. Calls about Governor Martin O'Malley's involvement with the Democrat presidential campaign in '84. He worked for Barbara Mikulski, who's now a Maryland senator. Martin O'Malley spoke at the 2004 Democratic National Convention in support of John Kerry's campaign. Michael Bloomberg, the independent NYC mayor, who, as we all know, he has a super PAC and he's big. He's part of Mayors Against Legal Guns Coalition. I think it was founded that or something. He is known for being anti-gun, for being anti-Second Amendment, for wanting to take away the Second Amendment rights of all Americans. He's known for being a real gun control zealot. Bloomberg touted O'Malley as one of the new stars of the Democratic Party. O'Malley's term limit in 2014, thank God. It says he might even explore a presidential run in 2016. O'Malley, according to the article, often refers to his the reducing of crime while he was mayor of Baltimore from 1997 to 2007. He claimed that the crime dropped by 40%. And then the article says, well, he actually never could prove where that statistic came from, nor could anyone else. And it then mentions that O'Malley's passage of this bill, or the Senate's passage of the bill, will drive employers such as Beretta USA out of the state, taking with them 300, 400 jobs. A guy who's the general counsel for Beretta testified against O'Malley's bill. He said, why expand in a place where people who built the gun, banned by the new law, couldn't buy it? Governor Martin O'Malley. By the way, Alex Jones, I highly recommend interviews with Cenk Uygur, Immortal Technique, and Michael Savage. All new interviews. Check them out on youtube.com/The Alex Jones Channel. Court to consider whether speedy approval of New York gun control law violated the Constitution. This is from Fox News. And it says a New York judge on Friday agreed to consider whether the state's tough new gun restrictions were rushed into law in violation of the state constitution. Well, that's interesting to see how they rule. Missing Recovery by Paul Craig Roberts, big fan of his. Paul Craig Roberts just talking about the GDP, how the growth isn't there. Read the article on Infowars.com. Ron Paul from CNBC. He says he actually discussed on a CBN TV show how the sequester is a fear tactic and nothing to really be so afraid of. Okay. BPA is deadly to the developing brains of babies in utero. New studies shows. Is BPA exposure cause of autism spectrum disorder? And this is from naturalnews.com. Mike Adams, the health ranger, runs that site. Good site as well. California gas tax is going up from 36 cents to 39.5 cents per gallon. What else is going on? Cash-strapped Egypt considers offering pyramids other monuments for rent. This is from an Egyptian news source. There's rumors about this proposal, which some have described preposterous. Okay, Biden says, quote-unquote, I know gruesome details, unquote, from Sandy Hook that I can't share. Well, interesting. Biden, the shenanigans he pulls every day. Michigan governor declares Detroit fiscal emergency, setting stage for state takeover of city's financial management and ultimately possibility of the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. Americans see biggest monthly income drop in 20 years. Personal income decreased by $505 billion in January. U.S. steps up aid, but Syria's rebels want arms. Of course, the whole Syria fiasco. We're supporting Al-Qaeda against Bashar al-Assad. Authoritarians target internet freedom. New background checks. course, we know what's up with that. Um, and the Colorado gun bill could ban standard shotguns. This bill heads to the Senate Monday, and I believe the governor is Democrat John Hickenlooper, already is pledging to sign this bill. Well, more on the gun control front. Oh, God. Well, border control. Marijuana cannon used to fire drugs over a U.S. border seized in Mexico. A compressed air gun from this Guardian, UK, mounted on a truck, could throw 13-kilo packets over fence into California. That's interesting. Now we got Bradley Manning, pleads guilty to misusing classified data in WikiLeaks case. U.S. Ivory private accused of providing diplomatic cables, secret documents to WikiLeaks, on Thursday pleaded guilty to misusing classified material, but denied the most serious charge in the case, aiding enemy. The private first class Bradley Manning, age 25, entered a plea prior to a court-martial set to begin June 3rd in a case that's one of the biggest leaks in government history in U.S. I believe that if the general public, this is a quote from Bradley Manning, I believe that if the general public had access to the information, this could spark a domestic debate as to the role of the military and foreign policy in general, said Manning, who was dressed in full military uniform. Now we need to free Bradley Manning, no question about that. He's been in prison for over 1,000 days, not formally charged with any crime. That's insanity. Students told to call 9/11 hijackers freedom fighters. Interesting. Fox News carries this. An AP World Geography teacher at a Texas high school who encouraged students to dress in Islamic clothing also instructed them to refer to 9/11 hijackers not as terrorists but as freedom fighters, according to students in the class. Students at Lumberton High School also were told to stop referring to the Holocaust as genocide. Instead, they were told to call it ethnic cleansing. The superintendent of Lumberton Independent School District told Fox News that the teacher did absolutely nothing wrong. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. What is more dangerous, fear or ignorance, or education or understanding? This is a quote from a teacher. I don't think my freshman level teacher was trying to politicize radical Islam or anything like that, he told Fox News. I don't think our teacher has to do... okay. Alright. And obviously Texas, Islamophobic state. Interesting article. Infowars.com. What else we got? Joe Biden says women need a shotgun, not an AR-15. Video shows why it's the other way around. You know, interesting. I was watching Julie Borowski, a token libertarian girl, a big female name in the liberty movement, Julie Borowski, and she was basically talking about how essentially yeah, the women are now, no joke, being told that you puke upon, or something like that. You puke upon your attacker, or you kind of throw up at him, or you do something. It's insanity. Women should have a handgun or whatever type of firearm they feel necessary to protect themselves from rapists and sick people who would do, who would commit, rape against these women. Oh, another great thing to check out, Infowars.com, the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. Ted Nugent, he called the Alex Jones channel just to thank him and talk about the New World Order for about 12 minutes or so. Check that out, guys. If I could play it, I would play it. When I go live, I'll be able to play clips. It'll be a good time. All right. Eurozone unemployment rises to record and economic weakness in Europe. All right, well, that's it for InfoWars. Let's see if I can find anything on LewRockwell.com. Let's see. Well, there's something about Catholic looks at Austrian economics. What make Chuck Hagel a punching bag? Lincoln's inversion of the American Union. Again, I talked about this a little bit last show. One show I'm just going to devote to the Civil War and Lincoln being racist, all that stuff. What should I take a look at? Okay, Chuck Hagel. Article by Eric Margolis on LewRockwell.com. Can Chuck Hagel stop the Pentagon juggernaut? Okay, Secretary of Defense, second most important and toughest job in the U.S. government after President. Talks about how Pentagon's 2013 total budget will be $800 billion when all programs, including quote-unquote black projects, are included. This mammoth sum represents almost 50% of the world's total military spending. Close U.S. allies in Europe, the Middle East and Asia, and the figure is 80%. Okay, the U.S. Department of Defense, the article says, of course, we know this, is not about the defense, but rather defensive operations abroad. We have over 1,000 bases in over 130 countries enforcing Pax Americana. Basically, Barack Obama needed to, freed from political constraints, challenge the. And I don't like Obama. No one does. No, none of us really do. But kudos to him for the Chuck Hagel nomination and to standing up to Israel to a certain extent. He nominated former U.S. Republican Senator, decorated Vietnam War veteran Chuck Hagel for the post of Secretary of Defense. Hagel was wounded twice in Vietnam as the first former enlisted man to head the Pentagon. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Taking office, Hagel called on the U.S. to resume being a force for good and avoid dictating to other nations. These were breathtaking words after Republican claims of American exceptionalism. The article says, I agree, a code which is just a code word for world domination. Hagel's nomination caused a firestorm among Senate Republicans, accusing him of being anti-Israel, pro-Iranian, and even accepting money from North Korea. Complete BS. Okay, the Nebraska senator was slandered, defamed, vilified by federal Republicans. It was a sickening display of hypocrisy and pandering as a veteran journalist. Okay, and so these senators and congressmen who dodged national service during the Vietnam War, we called them chicken hawks. Newt Gingrich, prominent chicken hawk, he got deferred for Vietnam War service. I remember a part in the Republican presidential debate where Ron Paul quipped with Newt Gingrich, and Newt's like, Ron Paul calls him out for being a chicken hawk, and Newt's like, I had a kid at the time, I had a wife at the time, and Ron Paul's like, I had a wife and 2 kids at the time, and I went. And he kind of looked at the audience and looked at Newt Gingrich, and the audience clapped and clapped and clapped, and it was an incredible moment. Newt got completely owned in that debate. Makes me want to rewatch some Ron Paul highlights from the 2012 and 2008 debates. Ron Paul, great American hero. High-profile Israel lobby is obviously targeted Hagel. Obama's appointment of Hagel, according to the article, was a stinging slap to the face of Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who had humiliated Obama and Joe Biden on numerous occasions and worked with Republicans to defeat Obama in presidential elections. Hagel asked to fend off his foes, Westerling with sharp cuts in military spending, layoffs of 800,000 civilian Pentagon workers, delays of cancellation of sacred cloud weapons programs like the absurdly expensive F-35 fighter program, anti-missile programs, new aircraft carriers. The military-industrial complex has cleverly put arms in most U.S. states, assuring that cuts in Pentagon spending will produce howls of national opposition to senators and congressmen. Senator Hagel speaks for moderate Americans who want to end America's post-9/11 heavy-handed policies, stop the fear-mongering over so-called terrorism, use the mighty U.S. forces to help people around the world. That's the article. What do you have here? A Catholic looks at Austrian economics. 10th Amendment and the 10th Commandment. What I would, I'm not going to get into this. What I would suggest, Tom Woods wrote a book. You all know Tom Woods. Wrote a book called "In the A Catholic Defense of Free Market" or something, and that's a great book. It was introduced by, or the foreword was written by an Ecuadorian bishop, cardinal actually even, who is now considered a potential candidate for the spot that Pope Benedict XVI left on the 28th of February. That'd be kind of cool if this Ecuadorian guy won it. To date, it's only been white popes. There hasn't been a single minority pope. Lincoln's inversion of the American Union, probably the last thing I'll get as far as news are concerned. Lincoln's Inversion of the American Union by Donald W. Livingston, LewRockwell.com. Just talking about the how Lincoln, the whole myth about the war to abolish slavery wasn't just behind that. Okay, this just talks about the Civil War. You know what? I'll get into this. Not now. I'll get to this some other show. The Civil War and Lincoln is a very interesting topic for me, and I'll talk about it in more detail some other time. Here I'm looking at Tom Knapp is a friend of the Independent Political Report, 2008 Boston Tea Party vice presidential nominee. He runs a blog called Napstar. KNAPPSTR.blogspot.com. Check it out. Great blog. I'm not going to go into further detail because I want to get to third-party politics. Oh, well, you know what? I'll get into one more final news item before we get into the discussion. Okay, so as you know, I'm the campaign manager for David Earl Williams III, running for U.S. Congress as a Republican in Illinois' 9th District in 2014. In the 2nd Congressional District, Jesse Jackson resigned amid his bipolar depression and his money laundering. I believe $750,000 out of his campaign funds he funneled for personal use, like a $43,000 Rolex watch. Obviously not a noble statesman there, and well, hopefully he gets a big sentence in prison because he should get all the most severe punishment in the book for that. Okay, so there was a primary election on February 20. What was it, February 28th or 26th? Democratic-Republican primary for the 2nd Congressional District to replace Jesse Jackson. General election will be held in April or May. I'm not sure. Okay, Robin Kelly was the favorite to win the Democratic primary nomination. Heavily black, heavily Democratic district. Essentially, Democratic nominee is guaranteed. All but guaranteed victory in the general election. Out of 16 candidates running for a Democratic primary nomination, only one of them was white. The rest were black, and that was Debbie Halverson. She was the runner-up to Robin Kelly. Debbie Halverson actually had some prior support from the NRA, and it's speculated that some Republicans crossed over to vote for her because of that. Maybe because she was white. I don't know. Okay, and me and David Earl Williams and I supported Lenny McAllister. All right, we supported Lenny McAllister for U.S. Congress for this race, 2nd Congressional District of Illinois, and we thought he would win. He actually supported us. He cross-endorsed us, put up a link to our Facebook page on his own Facebook page. And then the results were very disappointing for me. Paul McKinley won the Republican primary with, get this, 955 votes. How many votes did Robin Kelly receive? 30,872. Debbie Halverson got 14,000. Third place candidate Anthony Beale, 6,000. Then the rest got a couple thousand. 955 votes all took for Paul McKinley to win, 23 votes ahead of second place Aaron M. Wallace, and then our guy, the candidate me and David supported, Lenny McAllister, got a disappointing third place showing. I like to akin that to Ron Paul's very disappointing third place showing in Iowa, which might have been rigged for all we know. Ron Paul got about 21.43%. Rick Santorum won that with about 31 votes against Mitt Romney. Ron Paul third place. And our candidate, Len McAllister, got, so Paul McKinley got 27%. Aaron M. Wallace, 26.4%. Lenny McAllister, third place, 24.3%. And other candidates got about 20-something percent. All right, and the interesting thing about Paul McKinley. Okay, and our Chicago Tribune article I am looking at right now. And the title is, you just have a guy who cheated, who committed a crime, going to jail, who just resigned from Congress. You're going to replace him with another criminal who actually served 20 years in prison for burglary and other things like that. Interesting thing. Paul McKinley, not a Liberty candidate in any way. It says the article title is on the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, is in 2nd District, Republican Squeaker, ex-convict, looks to be winner. With a lead of 23 votes and help from the state GOP unlikely, McKinley prepares to face Kelly in Democratic stronghold by Bill Ruthart and Rick Peterson, Tribune reporters. I'll just read the article. Hell, why not? Okay, Republican voters are suggesting the 2nd Congressional District replace one felon after another by picking ex-convict Paul McKinley as the candidate to run for the seat recently ceded by former U.S. Rep. Jesse Jackson Jr. While official results in the GOP special election will not be certified until next month, McKinley had a 23-vote lead over Eric Wallace, multimedia company owner from Flossmoor, with all pressings reporting Wednesday. McKinley, a convicted felon who served nearly 20 years in state prison for burglaries, armed robberies, and aggravated battery, declared victory. Wallace, however, was not willing to concede, and he called the prospect of McKinley's representing the GOP an embarrassment. I completely agree. That's an embarrassment, of course. McKinley is a frequent protester in Chicago with nearly a dozen arrests to prove it. His campaign mantra has been to rage against the machine. And during candidate forums, McKinley has given passionate speeches blaming all the district's roads on the long rule of the Democratic Party machine on the south side and the south suburbs. Quote, "I was the only one in the party making the effort to rattle the saber against the machine," said McKinley, who would square off against Democrat Robin Kelly in the April 9th special election in a district overly Democratic. I think that's what resonated. Side note, April 9th, 2013, we have municipal elections in some suburbs and parts of Chicago. Carl Ariaza, John Dislin running for Mount Prospect trustee. If you're in the Chicagoland area, please support them. They are Liberty candidates, especially Carl Ariaza, one of the big-time Ron Paul supporters in Cook County, Illinois. Big-time Ron Paul activist running for Mount Prospect trustee. So is John Dislin. Lower taxes, limited government, that's their platform. I will actually be helping them later today. Today's Sunday. I'll be helping them later today. Canvassing, door-to-door canvassing, pamphlets, stuff like that. All right, back to the article. As McKinley celebrated his apparent victory, the state's Republican leadership was coming to grips with the fact that its party had just nominated someone with a long rap sheet to run in a district where the last 3 Democratic black congressmen have left office amid scandal. That includes Jackson, who pleaded guilty last week to federal charges. Pat Brady, who is a rhino, by the way, and he should resign. My side note. State's Republican Party chairman had no comment Wednesday about McKinley's prospects. Republican leaders expressed dismay and concern. Given the historic Democratic leadings in the district, no national or state financial help from Republicans is likely, they said. Wallace, who appears to have fallen just short for GOP nomination, holds out hope. Quote, he says, "We're still waiting for all the outstanding balance to be tallied." Blah, blah, blah. Okay, later on, Button Cook County. Okay, never mind. Wallace expressed disappointment and the turnout. I'm disappointed, too, that Lenny McAllister didn't win, especially the low number of votes cast in Will and Kankakee counties, where he said many Republicans chose to cross over and vote in the Democratic primary to support Debbie Halverson, who had opposed the president's proposed assault weapons ban. All he did was contribute to Robin Kelly's winning And now the Republican who is in the lead, and I've gotten to know Paul and like him, but Paul is a convicted felon. If he ends up winning, it's just going to be an embarrassment for the Republican Party. According to the Illinois Department of Corrections, IDC, McKinley was sentenced to concurrent 3- and 4-year sentences in 1978 for burglary and armed robbery in Cook County. In 1981, he was sentenced to 4 years of burglary, according to prison agency spokesman. He doesn't, of course, mention this in his campaign website or literature, his felony convictions. 1985, McKinley was sentenced to 5 years for 2 counts of aggravated battery causing great bodily harm, and for 30 years for armed robbery. He was paroled in 1997. According to the state, 2 weeks ago, the Tribune asked the Cook County Circuit Court Clerk's office to provide old records tied to those convictions. As of Wednesday, the records were not available. McKinley once again declined to discuss the convictions. Of course, you're not going to discuss the McKinley. It's a shame you got nominated rather than Lenny McAllister, a true friend of liberty. Lenny McAllister, LennyMcAllister.com. He's a conservative commentator. You can find his works in various media sources. From 2003 to 2007, McKinley was arrested 11 times in the county for various offenses, most of them tied to protests. In many cases, the charges ultimately were dropped. In a June 2005 bench trial, McKinley was found not guilty on 2 felony counts of threatening a public official. The case stemmed from a protest in which then Third World Adelman Dorothy Tillman accused McKinley of telling her to take your country ass back to Mississippi. Oh my God. I'm going to get your country ass. I'm going to get your country ass. McKinley insisted he was exercising his right to free speech and was acquitted, according to records. Oh my God, what a character the party's nominated. What a character. In 2007, Paul McKinley was sentenced to 20 hours of community service after being found guilty of disorderly conduct during a city council meeting protest. Records show McKinley used a bullhorn, Alex Jones style, just added for me, to scream profanity-laced comments to aldermen as they were speaking, according to police report. Police arrested McKinley after he refused to stop banging out the glass window in the sitting gallery overlooking the council chambers, records show. McKinley also pleaded guilty to June 2007 charge of criminal trespass to land. According to court records, he was asked to leave the Homeland Square Foundation after his questions about the nonprofit hiring procedures had been answered. The group advocates for redevelopment of the West Side site that used to be Sears headquarters. The candidate has not shied away from his arrest record during his campaign. I'm the next offender trying to save the next offender, and I believe Ron Kelly, she will become the next offender too, McKinley said. All of these next offenders in the district have been Democrats. Kelly declined to be interviewed. Article. All right. You know who I'm going to support? I'm going to support Lee Allen Jones, Green Party candidate. He was a 2010 candidate for U.S. Senate in Illinois, got 3% of the vote. Former award-winning radio broadcaster and football coach. Lee Allen Jones is a Green Party candidate, truly pro-peace, pro-civil liberties. And I'll support him simply because the Democrat is so bad the Republican's a convicted felon. And there are no Libertarian or Constitution Party candidates in this race, unfortunately. Very, 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 very liberal district, very, very, very predominantly black district in kind of suburban South Chicago, 2nd Congressional District, probably held by Jesse Jackson Jr. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, not much time left. You know, I tend to talk, oh my God. I thought I'd have more time to talk about third parties, but you know what, we got, 16 minutes, I'll do the best that I can. Alright, third parties, my analysis of third parties. Well, the big 2 parties, the big 3 parties, some of you probably, most of you might know, Green Party, Constitution Party, and Libertarian Party. Out of those 2, I support both Libertarian and Constitution Party, although the Constitution Party is my favorite. I consider them to be more or less my political home, and I'll probably join the Constitution Party when I am of age, 18. I'll be 17 in a couple of days, by the way, on March 7th. You know, the Constitution Party has some distinguished figures. Chuck Baldwin, 2008 presidential nominee. Ron Paul endorsed. Jerome Corsi, big name. Tom Tancredo was a brief Constitution Party candidate for governor of Colorado, got 36%. Jim Clymer, former national chairman, 2012 vice presidential candidate. Virgil Goode, 2012 presidential candidate, former U.S. congressman. And we got some other notable people. Alex Jones endorsed Chuck Baldwin, and that's my favorite party. I consider it right below home. However, the Constitution Party is less kind of built up than the Libertarian Party. And actually, kind of what I want to say is, for you familiar with the Constitution Party, you probably know that Randy Stufflebeam, former 2006 Constitution Party candidate for governor of Illinois, yesterday he announced that he will not be running for U.S. Senate in Illinois in 2014. And I'm kind of dismayed by this because I was going to be appointed. He formed an exploratory committee. I created a Facebook group for him. We were a draft website. He was exploring a run for U.S. Senate, and yesterday he announced he's not running it after all. And I was going to be the youth coordinator for that campaign. Sadly, nothing will become of that now. Anyhow, he says, after considering a month for several months, I'm not going to be running for U.S. Senate. He said he doesn't have a calling, really, to run this time. And his goal is going to be to focus radio broadcasts and polishing his speaking skills to promote the Constitution Party effectively. And, Randy Stufflebeam will not be running for the 2014 U.S. Senate race Constitution Party candidate. But he does said there's 7 statewide offices in Illinois in 2014 up for election. He wants all 7 to have a Constitution Party candidate. And I do like the Constitution Party, and the Constitution Party of Illinois has over 1,000 likes. It's the most active state affiliate, most liked state affiliate on Facebook of the Constitution Party. Over 1,000 likes. It's been expanding. I actually created the Constitution Party of Illinois Cook County Facebook page, and I created a website. The Facebook page is about 109 likes, and it's nice to see the party grow. It's a great party, and I like it a lot. But Randy Stufflebeam will not run. And you know what? Since I'm on the copy of the Constitution Party, I got to plug myself in. And here's an article I wrote in January 5th article. It's called "The Failure That Was the Presidential Campaign of Virgil Goode." You know what? I'm gonna read this. I probably should not read so many articles on the radio show, but this is my article, and I kind of want to read this, and I'll just see what you guys think. In my writing style, you can always email me at the following. You can go to my Facebook, the Leszek Report. We have 117 likes on Facebook. Like the Leszek Report on Facebook. You can find me at Krzysztof Leszek, Polish name. KRZYSZTOF, Leszek, Lesiak, on Facebook. I have 2,000 friends, 2,300 friends. You can add me on Facebook or email me clesiak522@gmail.com. And I guess you could call me or text me 847-513-1317 if you want to talk to me. I'm open to that. I don't really care. All right, so my article on January 5th, 2013, published on the Independent Political Report, entitled "The Failure That Was the Presidential Campaign of Virgil Goode." All right, get ready. On April 21st, 2012, Virgil Goode, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives from 1997 to 2009, was elected the presidential candidate of the Constitution Party and its National Convention in Nashville, Tennessee. Goode won on the first ballot with 203 votes, or 50.37%, beating out former National Vice Chairman and 2008 VP nominee Darrell Castle, who should run for the 2016 presidential nomination. I started a draft page for him, by the way. Former Savannah State University head football coach Robbie Wells, who's now running as an independent in 2016, been endorsed by Gigi Bowman, the Minister of Truth, Derek Grayson Tima, other people as well. Activist Susan Ducey, radio talk show host Lori Roth, neocon, by the way. And Goode was introduced by outgoing national chairman Jim Clymer, who mentioned that Goode served in the Virginia State Senate for 24 years and with his 12 years in the U.S. Congress, had more federal experience than Mitt Romney and Barack Obama combined. Goode delivered his acceptance speech, which was televised by C-SPAN. Goode thanked by name Don Grundman, a candidate himself, who ultimately decided not to support Goode, throwing his 3 California votes behind him. Goode noted that if Grundman hadn't voted for him, a second ballot would have had taken place. In his speech, Good outlined his platform positions, which included opposition to legal immigration, 100% pro-life stance, support for Second Amendment, traditional marriage, opposition to NDAA, and a balanced budget. He had also admitted to making mistakes in the Patriot Act, including voting for the Patriot Act, and said his Constitution Party association helped him to see the light on several issues, including foreign policy. While in Congress, Good voted for both the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He also voted for the surge. Thus, Virgil Hammond Good Jr. of Virginia with a notable thick Old Dominion accent. Really awesome accent. Check it out on YouTube. Virgil Good accent, or just Virgil Good in Congress or something. Or Virgil Good in Muhammad We Trust. He's like, you know, if he was a fearmonger, neocon at the time, and he basically said, we must oppose the Muslims who want the crescent and star to wave over the Capitol lawn, and in God we trust, stricken from our currency and replaced with in Muhammad we trust. And he's got his Virginia drawl there. Okay, became the most well-known nominee in the history of the Constitution Party, and the only one to have held elected office. Things look bright for the CP. Good look on track to set a record for the CP. The party has never exceeded 200,000 votes in a presidential election, sadly. Chuck Baldwin got close in 2008 with 199,000 votes. And no doubt, even though many CP members probably had their concerns with the past voting record, longtime CPers were surely happy to have such a prominent individual, former U.S. Congressman, be their presidential nominee. On November 6, 2012, the presidential election was held. Virgil Good came in 5th place nationally behind the duopoly candidates, as well as Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Good received 122,191 votes, or 0.09%. 415 in Illinois write-in votes. This was significantly less than Michael Perutka's 2004 showing, 144,000 votes, or 0.12%, and Chuck Baldwin's 2008 showing 199,880 votes, or 0.15%. In fact, Virgil Good's showing was the second lowest percentage of national popular vote that a CP candidate has ever received, behind Howard Phillips' 0.04% result in 1992. Same year, CP was founded. How does this happen? Why did former U.S. Congressman and the most prominent individual ever run in the CP as a presidential candidate fare so poorly? Several reasons, and there are 4 that I list here. Ballot access. This was by far the most important factor that caused Good to underperform by such a large margin. Good was on the ballot in a mere 26 states, which is likely the lowest number CP candidate has ever been on, besides 1992. He was on the ballot in states that had a total electoral college vote of 257, short of the 270 needed to be elected president. Even though he was a certified write-in candidate in 14 other states, where the total EDC vote was 204, doesn't amount to much because very few people vote for write-ins, and they typically get only 0.1 or 0.2% of the vote. All right, let me slow down here. Sorry. Campaign missed many states that should have gone on, including Arkansas, Illinois, Vermont, Maine, Kansas, Oregon, and Montana, among others. Good, despite being quite wealthy by one account, didn't really spend a whole lot of money on the important thing that a third-party candidates need: ballot access. Good's very important ballot access is likely the reason that just his party nominee, Rocky Anderson, was surprisingly added to the free and equal debate in Chicago on October 23rd. Rocky was on the ballot in 15 states, but had write-in status in 16 others for a total combined of 379 accessible EC votes. Good's terrible ballot access put him in the same thing as the former mayor and leader of a brand new party that had been created less than a year before. Hijacking. Number 2. Hijacking of by the neocons of the American Independent Party of California, the AIP. American Independent Party of California, with over 477,000 registered members as of October 2012, used to be the largest state affiliate in the Constitution Party. However, in 2008, it was hijacked by Alan Keyes supporters, who placed Keyes on the ballot instead of Chuck Baldwin, affiliated with Keyes' AIP, with Keyes' new America's Independent Party, now called America's Party. In 2012, however, many peers had hoped to take back the AIP and place Virgil Good on the ballot. However, at a smoke-filled backroom convention in August, attended by 7 AIP members who were part of the Keyes faction, America's Party nominee Tom Hoefling won the nomination unanimously. Hoefling went on to receive 38,372 votes in California, 95% of his national total. Had Good been on the ballot in California, would have significantly helped his total, receiving probably 30,000, 50,000 votes. Weak general campaign. Number 3. Good didn't run a very effective campaign, even if you, like me, followed his website and news section regularly, as well as his campaign Facebook account. Surely he did some traveling, but most of his efforts confined to his home county of Franklin County, Virginia, where he lives. I guess it sort of worked because Franklin County was his best county in the nation, giving him 2.58% of the vote. However, he was virtually non-existent on the national scene, and besides the free and equal debate in Chicago, Good didn't even have a campaign manager according to Wikipedia. He drove himself everywhere. Also, by limiting himself to only donations of $200 less, Good only hurt himself. Also, he raised only $202,588, much of that coming from his personal fortune. By comparison, Chuck Baldwin raised $262,000, and Baldwin was not even close to having the monetary wealth that Good possesses. Good didn't hold any major rallies, and to my knowledge was not interviewed by any major news network except for C-SPAN, which usually is pretty fair to third-party candidates. Number 4, a terrible campaign website. Another big one. In today's digital media age, there is no excuse for not having a good website, especially if you are sitting in the highest office in the land. Good's campaign site might have passed muster where he ran for Congress, but he wasn't. When it was first released, I thought it was only a draft and it would be drastically improved in the future. To my dismay, it was not. In contrast, Baldwin's 2008 site, which can still be viewed using web archives, was much more aesthetically pleasing and informative. Here are specific critiques of Good's site. First of all, the biography page sucked. Good's section only lists his birth, education, military service, and political experience, having only a couple words for each. When you scroll down to the VP candidate climber section, you'll see it's more than 3 times the size of Virgil's. But again, no complete sentences, just a list of important information about Clymer. Any serious campaign would have put out a much longer actual biography filled with anecdotes and such. B. The issue page was nothing rave about either. Good listed his issues as bullet points, which is a very amateurish way of organizing the issues page for a political campaign. Most campaigns would have a page listing all issues with a picture for each one and a read more button that takes you to the more detailed summary of the candidate's position on that specific issue. Some of Virgil's positions were one-liners, exclamation point, including his position on healthcare, which simply said, "I support ending Obamacare." Virgil, let me remind you, you're running for the most powerful office on the planet, United States Representative. The media page was also weak sauce. The videos section just had a bunch of YouTube videos lumped together on one page, while the photos page wasn't even organized as a gallery. It just had all the pictures on one page with captions underneath. It was slightly better than the video page, but still not nearly good enough for a presidential nominee of America's third largest political party, according to voter registration December 2010. Lastly, the campaign news page was atrocious. Had some mixed articles and media coverage of Good's campaign, but it was even updated regularly. In fact, from September 15th to October 13th, almost an entire month, there was not a single news item posted. Before that, not a single news item was posted between July 13th and August 1st. Come on, Virgil, how many times do I have to remind you running for POTUS is a serious matter? These are the 4 reasons why Good's campaign was such a major failure. Let's compare again closely Baldwin's results from 2008 with Good showing in November. In 2008, Baldwin's best state was Utah, where he earned 1.25% of the vote. His best county was Miller County, Utah, where he got 5.57% of the vote. By contrast, Good's best state was South Dakota, where he got a mere 0.65% of the vote. Best county was his home county, Franklin County, Virginia, where he got 2.58% of the vote. Baldwin was on about 37 states, Good only 26. Baldwin outpolled Libertarian nominee Bob Barr in 10 states. In 2012, Good outpolled Libertarian Garrett Johnson only in Michigan, and that's because Garrett Johnson was the right candidate, not on the ballot. Baldwin had prominent endorsements to boast of. Baldwin was endorsed by such prominent figures as Congressman Ron Paul, radio host and filmmaker Alex Jones, Jerome Corsi, author of The Abomination and Unfit for Command, Mark Dice, the famous 9/11 truther and YouTube vlogger, John Hostetler, former U.S. Congressman from Indiana, Joel Skousen, well-known author, Joseph Sobran, famed columnist, and CP's original VP candidate in 2000 before dropping out. Thomas E. was a politically incorrect historian and the author of such bestsellers as The Politically Incorrect Guide to American History, one of my personal favorites, and Meltdown. Some pretty impressive names, wouldn't you say? Now let's look at Good's endorsers. Jay Anderson, a former mayor of Columbia, Virginia. Stephen Andrew, president of USA Christian Communities, and Daniel Cassidy, a conservative activist and former GOP staffer. Have you heard of any of those people? I sure as Zach haven't. None of them even have Wikipedia entries. To summarize Good's 2012 showing, disappointed many. I sure as heck was disappointed by it. What of Good's political future? Should he run for president in 2016? No way, Jose. He should definitely run, however, for U.S. Congress in his old district, Virginia's 5th, in 2014 as a Constitution Party candidate. Good is still well known, liked by former constituents, and a 3-way race with duopoly candidates will only need 34% of the vote to win. CP will need, again, a major boost by electing their first member to Congress. I'm not the only person hoping this will run. A Facebook page has even been created, and the link. The draft effort has been endorsed by 2012 VP nominee and former national chairman Jim Clymer. He said, I think it's a great idea. Also, I think that in order to maximize success in the future, CP should run Chuck Baldwin for U.S. Senate in Montana in 2016. 2014. Last year, Dan Cox got an impressive 6.56% of the vote, and due to Montana's high concentration of Ron Paul supporters and freedom element people, Chuck would surely set records for the CP for the U.S. Senate race. Another endorsement from Dr. Ron Paul can put him over the top. Scott Braley, to my best of my knowledge, currently holds the CP record for a candidate running for U.S. Senate with a mere 5.76% set in Utah in 2010. Chuck would beat that. Facebook draft page as well. I believe CP's best presidential candidate in 2016 will consist of Darrell Castle for president and former Missouri State Representative Cynthia L. Davis for vice president. Castle, attorney, longtime party advocate, he knows the issues well. He would make an excellent standard bearer. He was the VP nominee in 2008 and former vice chairman. He has also recorded over 100 phenomenal broadcasts concerning the news and issues of the day. Cynthia is new to the CP, but she has already proven herself to be a loyal CPer and has run for lieutenant governor as a CP candidate. 8 years of legislative experience would add a lot to her ticket. She could be like the Sarah Palin of the CP, except that she, of course, unlike Palin, is actually a true constitutional conservative. Darrell should not candidacy as soon as possible to 1. Build name recognition, 2. Begin raising funds, unite the entire CP behind his candidacy. Created a draft page for Darrell. Now let's summarize. GU's extremely poor showing has proven one thing for third parties. Nominating a former congressman as little name recognition on the national stage does not translate into more votes. We saw this with Bob Barr's epic underperformance of only 523,000 votes in 2008, as well as Cynthia McKinney's low vote total of 161,000 votes. Third parties should be mindful of this and choose presidential candidates who are loyal, party members who articulate the party platform well, not newcomers who are elected to office but aren't objectively pure. Alright, and that ends the article. Ladies and gentlemen, that also ends our radio broadcast. We are slightly over time. I did not get to nearly 1/10 of what I wanted to get to, but that's okay. Next show we'll get to more. On next show, I'll probably have a good friend of mine, Adam Schalke, who's a Democrat. He's considered himself a left libertarian. He'll be on the show. He'll be co-hosting that program with me. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Chris Leshock signing off on the Leshock Report.